Can you hear me? Okay, it's 6:01. I'd like to kick off this workshop on strategic planning for the city of Sebastian. Just a little background, the city has been, actually since I got on council in 2016, has been trying to get a strategic plan put together and had many, many missteps. We have a new city manager. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm Ed Dodd, I'm the mayor of the city. Ed Dodd, D-O-D-D, okay, yes. There are some hearing things back there if you like, okay, all right. We finally have a staff that's kicking this off. We've hired a consultant. These two gentlemen right here, Dr. Sabak and, yes, okay, through the message. And they are in the process of putting together a strategic plan. This is the first workshop with the public. I wish there were a lot more people here than there are, but we'll have to work through that process. They're going to present at a high level the beginning of the plan, things related to the city's mission and their goals and so forth. I don't want to talk about what they're going to talk about, but remember it's a high level, so you're not going to hear details like dollar amounts and months and time frames and all that kind of stuff because we're not ready for that yet. They have to drill down through this to where we actually get down to objectives and tasks that are going to be performed. But this document is going to become the basis for the city's operation, basically, for the next 3 to 5 years before we redo it, which we will have to do in that window of time. It's going to be the basis for our budgeting process in the 25-26 budget year, which starts next October. We hope to have it finished and available to us for February for when we start our budget for the next budget cycle to allow us to use the goals and objectives of the strategic plan to put together the budget. And so this is kind of defining where we want to go, where the citizens want us to go, so the city staff can put together a plan on how they want to get there, and then we can fund that plan. So that's the objective in this. It's important for the city to do this. If we want to really be in control of the city's government and its finances, we have to understand the strategic direction that we want to take. And that's what makes us an important plan to go. So I'm going to turn this over to these two gentlemen and let them do it. At any time, we are broadcasting this, so I am going to ask that one of the staff members has a microphone. So at any time you want to speak, please just raise your hand and he'll bring you a microphone, because if you don't have that, if you don't use the microphone, then the people that are watching this will not be able to hear what you're saying, and your conversations will kind of get lost in the fray. Okay, so thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let me start us off here with just a few minutes on strategic planning, what it is, why, the benefits, the process. You know, our focus is long-term success. And long-term success is never an unplanned event. It's never an accident. It's never a coincidence. And strategic planning enables us to optimize opportunities for the future, as well as avoid and mitigate threats and risks. We could borrow a good quote from management scholar Dr. Peter Drucker, who would say, "The best change is the change we create." And in fact, he would add that it's even less risky today to be the innovator and the leader of change. You know, it's the old, would you rather be proactive or reactive, right? So either we're going to fail to plan and plan to fail. Organizations perform as they plan. This is all about identifying opportunities and to optimize, and all about also identifying threats or potential problems and preventing or reducing them or thwarting them. It helps us align the organization. In other words, the operations in the organization should match the objectives, what we're trying to get done, and it allows us to define the future and then create the future. 4 key terms you're going to hear a lot about throughout this process, and we have a handout for you on it too. The mission. What is a mission? Why the organization exists, the rationale, right? So if you said like the police department, public safety, right? The vision. Who do we want to be? Where do we want to go? What's the destination of the journey, right? What would we like to be in the future as a city? Our values as an organization. Organizations do best when they have clear, consistent, well-known, well-understood set of values, right? Which influence how people think, talk, and behave in that organization. And then goals, broad, long-term purposes. Now, not today, but this is a multi-stage sequential process. At a later date, we will get into objectives, which are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-bound. What would be an example? We're going to improve customer service satisfaction by 20% in 24 months. It's measurable, it's specific, it's realistic. Today's going to be much more high level, like the big picture type elements. So why do we do this? Particularly, why do we do it in the public sector? By the way, it's, as many of you know, it's done in the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and the public sector. It helps us identify and clarify our mission, goals, and objectives. It helps us unify the whole organization so that everybody understands who we are, what we're trying to get done, what the mission, vision, values, and goals are. It helps us make best use of limited resources. It energizes the organization. People come to work every day knowing we're trying to get this done, right? We're trying to make this happen. We're moving the city forward. It's like when President Kennedy was touring Cape Canaveral and he ran into a maintenance worker and he said, "So what do you do here?" He said, "Mr. President, every day I come to work every morning because I'm doing my best to make sure that we put a man on the moon." That's an organization that has a mission and a vision and that is well understood and embraced by everyone in the organization. It can attract resources. It can aid you in federal and state funding as well as non-governmental funding, just like going to the bank with a business plan. It strengthens public trust and confidence because citizens go, "I know what you're trying to get done, I understand it, I believe in it, I support it, and I'm going to help you do it." It allows us to be proactive instead of reactive. And instead of waiting for change to be introduced to us, we get to introduce change. It enables us to match, align, synchronize the city's budget and resources with what the goals and objectives are in the strategic plan. But really, the last line is what this is all about. And this is for the city to get even better results for you, the citizens the city serves. Quick definition of strategic planning, of a strategic plan. Knowing our mission, our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats, our stakeholders, history, capacity, and resources. What would be the best mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives for us, and what strategies and plans are we going to employ to achieve them? And you can see how it flows directly. You can draw a line directly from what? Mission and vision all the way down to objectives. So it helps us clarify and define that mission. From the mission then, we're able to generate long-term goals. From long-term goals, we're able to produce specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound objectives. Objectives don't implement themselves. We need what? Specific implementation plans that enable us to achieve those objectives. We make sure that we align everything in the organization to achieving those objectives. And then, of course, we're going to evaluate what worked, what didn't, how well, how much, In other words, you're not going to get an answer like, I think we did great. I felt like we did great. No, there's a number. It improved, and we can demonstrate it. It's quantifiable, objective, independent, verifiable. So what's the process? I'll quickly walk you through that. We've done extensive research on both the city and the city government. Every single report, plan, or document you could imagine us reading about your city and about your city government, we've read it. We conducted an orientation earlier this year for the city council and the administrative leadership about here's what we're trying to do with the strategic plan, here's how it works, here are your roles and responsibilities. We then spent 2 days conducting interviews with all of your elected policymakers as well as your senior staff team and hearing their thoughts and ideas and input on mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives. We then sent out an electronic survey. Based on the major themes from the interviews, electronic survey went out to all city employees, and we had a very high participation rate. So we could hear from the entire city workforce. Makes sense, doesn't it? After all, who's going to implement it? The city team that serves you each and every day. We then conducted a strategic planning workshop in which we reviewed all the research with your city council, had a discussion about mission, vision, values, and goals. And that's what you're going to be providing us feedback on tonight, the results of that discussion. Community meetings, this is the second one of today. It's very important to the city council that they receive public input and that they hear your feedback and ideas and your participation. Then there'll be a strategic planning workshop where we take all that other research and data we have, bring in everything you've given us and told us, inform the city council, here's the full package. Then they define that mission, select that mission, vision, values, and goals. Then task the city manager and your team here on producing specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-bound objectives. They could involve what? Policies and programs, capital projects, enhancing the ability of the organization to perform even better. Then there'll be a draft strategic plan, which will be reviewed by the city manager, and then reviewed and approved, revised by the city council, and then you move to implementation evaluation. At multiple points in the process, citizens will be heard, whether it's these community meetings or several different workshops. In other words, as much as you want to participate or as little as you want to participate, you're going to have that opportunity. So the electronic survey, the interviews helped us identify some key themes and major concepts, main ideas about mission, vision, values, and goals. We then sent that out in the form of electronic survey to your entire city workforce. Makes sense. They're going to be implementing it, so you probably want to get their ideas and input on that'll work, that won't, that makes sense, that doesn't, this can be made better. We had a high degree of participation from the city team, and once again it gave us another really good data set as they ordered it, as they expressed level of agreement and they ranked priorities. As you see, we're at all these different steps in the process, we're collecting more and more information so that we get a better and better and more accurate and fuller picture of what would work best for your city. And that involves, once again, all the data and research we review, a lot of input from the city council, plenty of input and ideas from the entire city workforce, and a lot of public participation. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Richard Levy, and he will take us forward.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, everybody. I've spoken to some of you, but when you came in tonight, you should have received 3 pieces of paper: the agenda, If you don't have these, let's make sure you get all three for both of you, so we can get both of your opinions. And grab a pen also, because we got a little writing assignment. Pretty simple, but we want your input. Let's let everybody get a chance to do that. I got you yours, and yeah. Okay. You want to do it? No. You sure? Okay. Okay, so there's three things. There's the agenda, which was on the screen before. The description of the definition of mission, vision, values, and goals, which you can use for reference as you do this. And the last page is what we're calling the citizen comment card, and it's a double-sided piece of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through that. We're going to ask you to give us your thoughts on that. I'm going to explain how we're going to do that. So the very first thing we're going to ask you about, and remember, this is high-level stuff, so we're not going to be talking about when sidewalks are going to get built or when sewers are going to be extended or not. Tonight is about real big direction of where the city is going. And ultimately, this plan will get down to the details of when sidewalks are built and where and other projects and programs. But tonight is the big ideas, and so we want your input on the mission of the city, and that's why does it exist? And you might sort of never ask yourself that question, but sometimes when you do, you come up with different ideas. And what Dr. Saviak talked about, those interviews we did and the electronic survey, all that analysis, these were the 4 highest ranked ideas about what the city's mission should be. First one's quality public services should be the centerpiece. I'm going to have to read them all, but quality of life, that should be the focus. Foster economic opportunity, or should maintain our small town feel. Now, this chart that you have in front of you is asking you whether or not each of these statements should or should not be included in the city's mission. Now, you might ask yourself, well, of course all of these should be. But yet, when we surveyed the 100 and some odd people that filled out the survey, these all ranked very differently. They came in rank order, and there were others that fell out that didn't rank high enough to get here. And so we're asking you for each one of these, should it be included in the city mission or should it not be included? And of course, there's no perfect answer here. And in fact, if there's something that you could think of that should be in the mission that's not here, we've provided some lines underneath that area for you to give us your thoughts. So if you think any one of these or all 4 of them or 2 out of 4 should be included, check, say should be included. If you feel strongly that we should not maintain our small town feel, say it shouldn't be included. Or again, if there is something that comes to mind that isn't just captured here, please include it on the bottom line. And this would be a good place to add that the city has set up a website or an email address. It's on right there, strategicplanning@cityofsebastian.org. If you feel comfortable filling this out tonight and giving it and leaving it with us, that's great. If you feel like you want more time, we've kind of set 2 weeks. If you wanted to take this home and give it some thought and give us some, more in-depth feedback, that's great. That's great too. And the city manager has set up this email address where you could scan this at home if you have the ability to do that and send it by email to the city. So we're asking you your thoughts on the city's mission. Now, I'm going to stop and ask if there's any questions or comments or thoughts on this that you want to share with the group. You're thinking about something.
I think this is a great little town. My parents moved here in the 1980s. My parents moved here in the 1980s from Ohio. And I moved here about 10 or 12 years ago from Virginia. I think your process is excellent. It's positive. It's professional. It's thoughtful. I think you're way ahead of most of the people in this town who come here, who are retirees, myself being one. A question that I want to ask, but I don't think you're going to want to answer it,
Okay, try us.
is this town is really not in control of its finances. It's taxed by the county. The tax rate is one it's a county rate. And I think that many times we have specific things in Sebastian that we would like to do that are of no interest to Vero Beach. That's one point.
Okay.
The other point is that this town is a nice place to look at. And it's a beautiful site geographically. Its scale is great. The concern and fear and issue that's on my mind is that population seems to be in the way of keeping what we want here. And I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but you people as professionals might have some ideas to suggest to keep this a safe, clean, healthy, and respectable place.
So great comments, great questions. So it was two-part. One was there's a sense you feel that you're not necessarily in control of the finances, that you're influenced by the county, and the other one was the character scale of the place. So I will tell you that as we go through each one of these things tonight, you will likely find some statement that corresponds to that thought. Or you might find that there's especially the comment about the control of finances, that might be a goal of the city, but it's not articulated in what I'm going to show you. We would ask you to write that in because that's an important comment to make. And that may elevate and resonate with the city council. That's what we're here tonight, is to take input. It may influence the goals that the city council would adopt and might ultimately wind up with some financial planning goal that might address that. I'm supposing here, don't know what's going to happen, but this is what tonight's all about, is as you see these places, we talk about mission and vision, values and goals, to give us that kind of feedback. I think you're going to find things in here about the character, scale, and growth and sustainable growth of the city. You're going to see statements like that. If what I heard from you, you would probably want those included and amplified. And so that's exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for tonight. You've hit on two things. One may not be articulated on any one of these four items, which we would ask you to just write it in for us. The other one I think you'll find is articulated in a different kinds of places. You would probably ask those to be included in the mission, vision, values, and goals. And then from all of this, as we funnel down to the specifics, the city manager is going to be tasked with developing specific objectives and then ultimately plans to execute on those objectives. And that's where the detail will actually happen in this plan. Okay, let's wait for the mic.
This kind of meeting ought not to be planned and be given at this time of year in August, when the majority of people that live in the city are not here. The timing of this is, the intention is great and the timing is not good.
Okay, thank you for that.
I moved up to Sebastian in 2016. We moved up from West Palm Beach, the Delray Boca area. And we came here. It was beautiful. We love it here. But my concern is that they're building houses on every single lot that they could put their hands on. Is there any way of putting a cap on the houses being built?
Well, so your question is probably more about comprehensive planning and zoning, which is really not what we're here to talk about tonight. But having said that, if that is your feel and perception, I think you will find statements in here about, and we're going to get to them, about preserving the character of the place, smart, sustainable growth. Those would be the kinds of statements that, if that is your concern, you would want to make sure are included in this plan so that, and I know the manager and the mayor are here listening to these comments so that they hear that. So when we get down to the details of the plans, if the sentiment of the community is that's a concern and it's embodied in the vision of the city, then they can develop plans to address those vision components. So again, another great comment, because it's general, it's your view of what's happening in your community. Take that and give us feedback on how it fits into this framework of a mission, vision, and value. So we'll probably get to some of this stuff as we get to the vision and we get to some of the goals. You'll find language there that probably will resonate with you, and you will probably want to say that stuff should be included. And there are going to be, there are others that might not agree, and they may say that stuff shouldn't be included. And that's kind of the process of gathering community-wide input, and that's what we're here to do tonight. So on the mission, thoughts, everybody good with the assignment tonight? We're just asking you what you feel should or shouldn't be included. And again, open-ended, give us comments, and we also have a 2-week return date. Make sure we get that back in 2 weeks. So we want to aggregate all this information and kind of learn what everybody thinks. So we're going to go through, that's the mission, the vision, as Dr. Saviak said. Where are we going? What do we want? Where do we want to go? And what do we want to be? And what can we achieve? And again, out of our process of interviews and electronic surveys, these are the 4 statements that resonated to the top. That doesn't mean these are the only statements about the city's vision. And we want your input on others, but let's just go through these real quickly. City will preserve our hometown vibe and coastal charm. Make our community a vibrant and desirable place to live. Ensure smart and sustainable growth, and promote the beautiful waterfront. And so we would ask you to go through these, and if you believe any of these should be included in the city's vision, check the box that says include. If you feel any of them shouldn't be included, check the box that shouldn't be. If you're indifferent, you can leave it blank, but we would like you to give us at least one box checked on each of these, either include or don't include, so we have some sense from how you feel. Yes, ma'am.
How do we stop people from building on the river? I mean,
again, that's a great question. That's a growth management question. That's a comprehensive plan and zoning question. That's not what we're focused on here tonight. However, the fact that that's a concern of yours should, as you look at these, you might find that if that's how you feel, you might want to pick one or any number of these that you feel would address your view of what the city should be. And that's kind of what tonight is about. So again, we're not going to get into the specifics of that kind of strategy or rule, but the plan ultimately could wind up driving city decisions on policies about growth. Again, this is not the comprehensive plan, but the strategic plan, this mission and vision, values and goals will set the tone for how the city proceeds in everything it does, how it spends money, how it makes decisions, how it views the future. And that's what the plan is about. Any thoughts or questions on the vision? I don't know if you'll find one of these 4 or any of these 4 that appeal to you. Again, we encourage you to write in something or your thoughts if nothing here really appeals to you. Yes, sir.
I moved up here from South Florida 29 years ago. Moved on to Filbert Street when the water plant was still there. And I had a U-Haul truck parked across the street on the property of the water plant, Swale. And I had a warning the next morning on my truck for parking there where I just moved in. And now I ride down the streets of Sebastian. I see commercial trucks parked along Barber Street overnight. I see all kinds of violations of what would never happen years ago. And the only way they're ever taken care of is if a resident calls in and gives their name and address. Why isn't our code enforcement taking care of that? And our swales dug out on even empty lots to where the water can flow.
Well, I don't have those answers for you because, again, those are specific operational concerns. Then you should, Mark, tell us what portions of the vision statement you believe should be included and not included. Again, I know it may be frustrating because you have concerns about very specific directives and rules and regulations. That's not what this plan is about today. Ultimately, it might get to the point of, reinforcing some of those rules and regulations way down the road, but right now we're just trying to get this sort of big idea of where the city's going. But with that experience that you've had, you have a feeling for what you think the city should or should not be doing or where it's going. Try and pick one of these or tell us some other description of what should the city be doing, what should the city's vision be, and then we'll include that in our analysis of all the ideas that we're collecting. Thank you. Hello.
So at the present time, the city does not have a vision statement, is what I'm understanding, or they do and they're updating it?
It's being updated.
Where do I find the current vision statement?
Is it online? It's on the website.
What's the website? Thank you. Thank you. So I can go to citysebastian.org? Okay, go to the .com, and there's a search field, and I can search for vision statement. Go to the .com and search for vision statement. Thank you. And the other question is, how and when was it decided that the statement needed to be updated, or is it a regularly scheduled activity?
I can answer that. Part of our initial engagement, when we did interviews, we asked, how do you feel about the existing vision statement? Does it reflect how you feel about the future of the city? And we asked the city council, we asked the senior leadership of the city, and I think it might have been a question on the survey, I'm not sure, Joe, but overwhelmingly, people felt like it was time to redo the vision statement.
When was it last?
The existing vision statement, when was it created? Yeah. Way before your time, probably 1990s. Yeah, it was time for a refresh. But it's a great question of like, we're doing this, but where are we coming from? And we're coming from an older vision statement, and there was a sense of pretty widely held that it's time to rethink where we're going. But great question. Any other thoughts on the vision? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on values. And again, the values are how we think, talk, and behave, those principles and standards. This is about how you want your city to think, operate, and behave, those value statements. And so, again, we tested 15 of them, I suspect, and these are the 5 that rose to the top. Doesn't mean they're the right 5 for you, but we would ask you to kind of review them and give us your thoughts on whether you think they should be included in a list of city values. Strategic plans often express the values of the organization, which is very important. It goes to Joe's question of when Kennedy asked the maintenance worker, it's about spreading the right message through the organization, and how do you want your organization to treat people? and to think and operate. And that's really important in terms of being an effective and efficient and responsive organization. So the 5 that rose to the top for our research with out of the surveys that we did and is public transparency, being open and available for everything, all sorts of information, anything, being completely transparent, professionalism, operating in a professional manner, protecting the city's natural resources was a really important value that rose to the top, and coastal charm, natural resources, coastal charm, they're sort of related, but both of those ranked very high. And then there was an expressed interest on behalf of came out of the survey that, being innovative and moving forward with innovative initiatives. And so these were the 5. Doesn't mean that these would be your 5. You might want some other value, that you want embodied in the city's strategic plan. And so we would ask you just to fill that in. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I'm listening and I'm hearing you talking about these 5 rows to the top, or the other side of the page, 4 rows to the top. So were these selected items among others that were presented to the people that were queried? So could they add things to them, or mostly they were provided with the multiple choices?
Joe, my recollection is the survey there was a list of multiple values.
Two-stage process.
Yeah, use the mic, Joe.
I'm so sorry. Two-stage process. During the interviews, everyone was asked about, what should be those values that define the organization. That list then was then tested with the survey that went out to all city employees. And so now what you're looking at is, okay, what were the top values in frequency selected by the respondents to the survey to the entire city government. And then now today we're on to the public community component, which is, okay, great. During the interviews, the elected and administrative leadership said, we think these should be the values. During the electronic survey, where the entire city workforce weighed in, this is what we think should be the values. That's what you're looking at right now. And then now we're hearing from you on, yeah, I agree with that, I don't agree with that, So like a 3-step process.
Yeah, I should point out the first step in the process was completely open-ended. Anybody could have said any value they wanted. And we cataloged all of them. And if there was, out of the 25 people we spoke to, if there was only mention of one value, it didn't make it to the survey. But if there were multiple people mentioned that value more than once, we put it in the electronic survey and then tested, I don't know how many, I'm trying to remember if it's 10 or 15 that we tested, and these
right,
are
and then they're asked to rank.
Good. What I'm trying to understand is the first one of the questions that I asked was, is there already a vision statement? How old is it? And now I'm trying to understand, how did we get to where we are now? Thank you.
Fair question.
Absolutely.
Great question, and thank you for asking it, because it is important to, these weren't just sort of pulled out. There was some science associated with this. So those are the thoughts on the values. Yes, sir. Can we get the microphone to you?
Another one, I'm trying to edit my own language
so I can fit into what you want to do, to be more general. But I can't help but be specific in the next one, is connecting this town, this lovely place, to other communities that are outside of Sebastian. To travel around here, for people that don't drive anymore, transportation is getting to be a difficult issue. To go to the airports, to have to take a taxi for $150 to go to the Orlando airport is a big deal for a lot of people. But connecting our town to what are we doing during the year with neighboring jurisdictions outside this city is something that we ought to pay attention to. That also leads me to the last one, is what will be our input to connecting to what's going to happen to that transportation in the way of that railroad.
So if I could characterize your comment is, you think that there's need for enhanced mobility.
That's right.
Especially for retirees who don't have the ability to
Or
get
for
around.
whoever.
For whoever. And so I would tell you, the next thing we're going to go to after values is goals. And so one of your goals could be enhanced mobility, right? It's not on the list.
Our jargon is a little different, but
Right,
we're going
but-
to the same place.
But that's why we want you to tell us if that's an important issue to you, which it sounds like it is,
Right.
and you've identified a shortcoming, and there may be hundreds of people that feel like you, we would ask you to fill that in and let us know.
And one other one that I'll add on is that we ought to pay more attention to what this town is, what's happening in this town when it gets dark. I spend a lot of time walking along the river, and there are many people who inhabit this city who inhabit in our parks at night, and I know the police are doing a good job, but that takes away from our public safety.
We've got a public safety goal for you, so that's okay. No, these are great points.
Yeah, public safety, I think, is under goals, but if you want to elaborate on that comment section about what specific aspects of public safety, please do that.
Yeah, very, very helpful. So we all good with the values task? And then finally, we are gonna move on to those goals, those broad, long-term purposes. And again, same process. These are the 5 that rose to the top. Doesn't mean that they are the only 5 that should be articulated, but smart, sustainable growth, preserving hometown feel, coastal charm, encouraging economic development, improving organizational efficiencies, and ensuring a high level of public safety for our community. Now, could mobility fall under smart, sustainable growth? It could, and it does, but that may not be specific enough for you, and we would ask that you tell us. Well, I think with regard to this kind of language, if you told me I want a shuttle service to the Orlando airport as a program, that's too specific. But if mobility for the community and improved mobility, that would be, and again, I could see that falling under smart, sustainable growth, but maybe when it gets down to specifics, it might not cover what your concern is. So, you could make a comment and tell us about your focus on mobility. I think it'd be very helpful. Other thoughts or questions? This is essentially what we wanted to do tonight, is go through the mission, vision, values, and goals. Get your feedback. If you're comfortable, you can leave your form here with us. If you'd like more time, we have up to 2 weeks from today. Don't know. September 5th. That would just be emailed to strategicplanning@cityofsebastian.org. Oh, we do. There it is. Perfect. No, whatever the date is, we don't want to be in November and have your form show up and we've moved on, and so hopefully if you have the ability to get that to us, that would be great. And we're here for a little bit. If you have any questions, want to come up and talk to us individually afterwards, we're happy to do that. Really appreciate you coming out tonight. It says a lot about the community that you spend the time to help this city, chart its future path. Thank you again for everything you've done, Mayor and Brian, thank you. And all the city staff, the AV staff, for everybody for helping us, and appreciate you participating. Thank you.
Thank you.